Sometimes we become pessimistic about the future, and maybe more specifically, we become pessimistic about our ability to change the future, about our ability to create change in general, right? Whether that be in our own lives or whether it be in the missions, visions, purpose, calling, all the things that we are involved in, right? And sometimes it's because we're burnt out, right? We've been doing all the things and the return has not been what we desired or hoped for. Sometimes it's because we're misaligned, right? Being misaligned and burnt out are similar, but not quite the same, right? Sometimes it's because of fear, where it's like, oh, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm like literally scared to death every day, every week, right? That it's not going to work or I'm going to fail or, whatever. And sometimes it's because of the things that are happening around us, right? So there's no shortage of looking anywhere in our societies, be it political, be it economic, be it our local communities, et cetera, et cetera. Any of these reasons could cause us to be a bit more pessimistic about the future. Okay. And so, what I would love for you to do is to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. This is one of these like therapeutic tools that we use a lot, right? Where 10 being the highest, okay? If you rate yourself less than no, let me tell you the question first. And then, right? So I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, right? And the question specifically is, right? I want you to rate your level of belief in your ability to create change. Okay? Specifically in your ability to create change. Where would you put yourself on that scale? Okay. If you rated yourself less than an 8, 9, or 10, this is your episode. Now, if you rated yourself an 8, 9, or 10, love that for you. You're welcome to stay and join us. But I'm specifically doing this for those of you who, maybe life has kind of knocked the wind out of you, or maybe it perhaps is not quite that dramatic, right? But sometimes you just struggle with confidence or right? It's like, I know what I'm called to do, or maybe I don't, right? At the end of the day, if you are an impact driven person, right? One of the things that we have to constantly remind ourselves is that this work has more to do with courage than anything else, right? And so this episode is really designed to encourage you, right? Because it's easy to get bogged down, like I said, whether it be personal issues, whether it be things in our direct communities or within our industries or within our companies, right? Within our political, so like there's just no shortage of maybe I can't, maybe it won't, blah, 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 blah. And we need to silence all of that noise. Why? Because if not you, then who? Like, if not you, then who? And not from a put the whole world on your back kind of place, because too many helpers are already doing that and burning out and killing themselves, right? So this is not from a place of I got it, I'm gonna do it all. It is from a taking a level of responsibility, right? For the part that is yours to own. Okay. Not everybody's part. I'm a firm believer that there is a thin line between ownership and responsibility, right? And understanding that line is what keeps us from not trying to be Superman and Superwoman. Okay. So if this is really about courage, right? Because here's what I want you to hear. If you don't have courage, you often don't start. But if you don't have conviction, you often don't continue. And if I just want to add one, if you don't have strategy, you definitely are not going to finish. Okay. So here's what I want to talk about today on the episode. I was reading a book, as one does. Okay. This one is called Pour Your Heart Into It, which is basically a book about Starbucks. More specifically, it is a book about Howard Schultz, who, if you do not know, is the CEO of Starbucks, okay? Or was. He, at the time of this, he is not. But he's basically responsible for making Starbucks what he is today, right? So Starbucks has again, for those of you who do not know and are not big brand readers like myself, right? I probably could tell you a lot about most of the bigger brands, the Nikes, the Disneys, the Starbucks, the McDonald's, et cetera, because I love reading that kind of thing. And Howard Schultz did a similar thing with Starbucks that Ray Kroc did with McDonald's, right? Which is just to say that both McDonald's and Starbucks existed pre these individuals, but on a much smaller scale with much different visions. And these people were responsible for blowing it up. Okay. So that's my 2-minute excerpt of something that you may or may not wanted to know. Okay. So as you may know, if you've been listening to this podcast or just follow me in any way, you know that I love to read. And one of the things that I love to read about is the 1%, right? It could be brands like, Starbucks, or it could be people, right? But even more so, I love reading when the people came from nothing, right? The book has plenty of good points. At some point, I will probably do a little bit more of a book review and share some of those points. But today, I really just want to focus on Howard Schultz's story, mostly because, again, what we need most, not only, is courage, right? And what I've learned about my people is that they are often leaning on competence, as if competence and courage are the same thing, right? They are focusing on what they know. They are leaning on what they know, right? That's what I mean when I say competence. And it's like, we want you to be competent. I love that for you. I don't know that another degree, another certification, another course, another fill in the blank with something else that you feel like you need to learn is going to get you closer to the mission, purpose, vision, etc., that you are called to live. Okay. What it requires most is courage, friend. Okay. And if we are going to learn the lesson that 2025 tried to teach us, it is to keep the main thing the main thing. If we just did what was most important instead of trying to do every single thing, we would be much far off. Okay. Much better off. So, courage is our number one skill that we need to be able to develop. And in order to do that, you need conviction. Okay. Right. History was not changed because of laws or because of time or because it was changed by people. Okay. So, here's my snapshot, the small piece of the book that I'm going to share about Howard Schultz. So, the thing that's interesting about him is that he grew up in what I would consider to be very meager at best, if we were just going to give him, a little leeway. Meager at best, right? He grew up in, it wasn't Brooklyn. Let me just make sure, because I will make up something. If y'all, listen, it'll be close, but it'll be made up. Nope, he was definitely, see, I was right. I take good notes. He grew up in Brooklyn, and specifically, he grew up in the projects of Brooklyn. Okay. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of times when you hear these big names, you think they came from money or they came from well-to-do, places. They didn't have no trauma, et cetera, et cetera. Nah. Howard said, nah, I'm here. He said, I'm one of y'all, right? So he grew up in the projects and also felt the stigmatism that comes with growing up in the projects. The book doesn't go into a ton of detail about what stigma that might look like, but we not dumb. We know what comes with being poor, right? He talked a lot about, having a questionable, is how I will say it, relationship with his dad, right? They grew up poor. His dad worked 3 jobs, all blue collar kinds of, work, driving cabs, working in factories, etc. Right. And I share this specifically because why not you? No, dramatic pause. Okay. Why not you? Right. Because oftentimes we are counting ourselves out for all of these different reasons. Oop, I'm too old. Oop, I'm a woman. Oop, I'm Black. Oop, I grew up without, 2 parents. Oop, insert the thing that comes up in your mind about why you can't, why you won't, why you're not the one. And I just want to remind you, well, what's different about you than Howard? Huh? No, I want you to actually answer that question for yourself. I'd love for you to answer for me, but since I'm not there with you, answer it for yourself. What is different about you than Howard? A lot of my clients grew up better than this. No, dramatic pause again, okay? If you rated yourself anything less than an 8, 9, or 10 on my original question, okay, which was, how strong do you believe in your ability to create change? And I'm talking about real change, okay? If you rated yourself a 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, any of that, here's your homework. Am I giving you homework? Yes, I am, friend. Okay, because somebody has to help you. Okay, because the biggest thing that it requires is not your competence; it requires your courage. Right. So it's like, all right, LaChelle, how am I going to develop this courage? I got you. Let's do it. Okay. So I would love for you to make a list of 10 to 20 things that you would do if you were a 9. If you were a 9 and you believe there was literally nothing could stop you short of, I don't know, getting hit by a semi truck or a hurricane or I don't know, right? Like literally, I'm unstoppable, right? I want you to make a list of 10 to 20 things, courageous things that you would do if you truly believed. Okay. And then I want you to do one of those, maybe 2 of them, if you're just going to, do it full out, 1 or 2 of them a month. Why? Because you can do scary shit once a month, right? This is not an everyday kind of thing. That's too much for us, typically in the beginning anyway, right? And bonus points, not necessarily required at this particular stage, but bonus points if the 10 to 20 things on your list are connected to your North Star. Now, if you don't know what your North Star is, that's a whole different podcast episode. Look at the link in the show notes. It'll support you, okay? But if you can connect it to your North Star, even better, okay? Because the goal is that when we take action, it moves us closer to the thing that we desire. And the thing that we desire should be a very clear destination, okay? I also want you to make it visible. These 10 things, these 12 things that you are going to do over the next however many months, put them on a sticky note. Make them visible in some way, shape, or form. Part of the reason why you're not doing nothing or you're not doing the courageous things, is probably the way I want to say it, because you're doing stuff. It's because it's in a notebook. It's in a Google Doc. It's in the notes on your phone. We need that thing to be visible. All 12 of them. Is it going to look crazy for you to have 20 sticky notes on the back of your door? Sure it is. We don't care though. We after something, right? We're after becoming the version of ourselves that we need to be. We're after the change that we've been called to make. And that's going to look a little weird at times. Okay. So if your husband or your kids or whoever sees your little sticky notes, tell them, go on now, mind your business. I'm working on something. Okay. So make it visible because it will help you, right? You need conviction in order to have more courage. Okay. So remind yourself of who the fuck you are. And you do that by proving to yourself, not proving to other people, proving to yourself, because that's what your brain is looking for, right? The reason our brains resist us so much is because it does not like change. Change feels like, oh, unsafe. We don't know nothing. This feels unfamiliar. Don't like it. So what we need to be able to do is normalize your courage, because the moment you normalize it, your brain stops panicking every single time you go off and do something crazy. Now it's going to panic from time to time, but it's going to panic far less. Okay. So we're going to give ourselves some proof this year. We're going to remind ourselves, oh no, courage, not competence. Courage, not competence. We love competence. We want competence. We love consistency. But it's not going to be your effort by yourself, baby girl. Sir, ma'am, sir. Okay. It will be courageous acts that get you to the finish line. And that requires not counting yourself out because of your age, your race, your gender, your background, your trauma, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because for every single one thing that you are counting yourself out on, I could give you a story of someone who made it work, who figured it out. And that's not to create shame. It is to remind you that you are special too. You got it too. Okay, so you got this. Go off and be great.